Hello, and thank you for joining us today as we take you on a journey through time to explore how the science fiction genre has evolved in America. I'm Joe Mixie, and today I'll be your guide as we travel through 6 major eras in American film and look at how science fiction films have fared through each one. Before we dive into each era, let's take a look at the formation of the science fiction genre as a whole and the films that brought it to prominence. The science fiction genre is widely regarded as one of the earlier categories of film to have been created. Shortly after the Lumiere brothers patented the cinematograph in 1892 and began to make moving pictures, others began to experiment with the film, leading to the first major breakthrough in motion picture history. After attending a demonstration of the cinematograph by the Lumiere brothers, French stage actor Georges Méliès developed an instant interest for moving pictures and offered the pair 10,000 francs on the spot for one of their machines. When they refused, Méliès turned elsewhere and eventually found an equivalent. He would go on to become known as the father of special effects, directing over 500 films between 1896 and 1913. At the forefront of his productions was the 1902 film A Trip to the Moon. With a runtime of 18 minutes at 12 frames per second, this unprecedented feature is the earliest known example of a science fiction movie, and essentially created the genre. It was named 84th in the Village Voice's list of 100 greatest films of all time, and opened the door to a world of possibilities for science fiction movies. One major trend in the early stages of film that even still stands today was the adaptation of successful novels into feature films. One of the most successful of these adaptations came in 1916, when Jules Verne's hit book 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea was made for the silver screen. With extravagant costumes and overly large sets being used for the production, including a full-scale replica of the Nautilus submarine, the film was one of the most expensive ever made at the time, racking up a bill to the tune of about $4.5 million in today's amount. It was the first movie to be shot entirely underwater and succeeded in putting a little-known company called Universal Films on the map. You may have heard of them. Well, as you can see, the production quality of science fiction films began to advance rapidly once the genre took off. By 1927, sci-fi films were becoming a staple in American society. Let's take a look at some of the pictures that carried sci-fi through the golden age of films. In 1927, sci-fi began its breakthrough into the mainstream movie scene as Fritz Lang's Metropolis was released. A film about a young hero trying to fix a futuristic dystopia, it is regarded as a pioneering movie for the genre and was one of the first feature-length sci-fi films ever made. The film was initially praised for its special effects and free-thinking storyline. However, the popularity of the film did not come without some controversy. Critics of the film lashed out against its alleged communist agenda, and the praising of the film by Nazi propagandist Joseph Goebbels didn't help, who praised the film for promotion of what he called social justice. The movie was eventually cut down after its original release, but has since been restored. By the 1930s, the sci-fi movie genre had taken the nation by storm, and audiences were flocking to see movies that included flashy special effects and extraterrestrial themes. So much so that many tuned in to hear Orson Welles narrate H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds on October 30th, 1938 on the CBS radio network. Now I know what you're thinking. This is supposed to be a presentation about movies. Well, relax, because this radio drama helped push along science fiction as a whole, making it an essential part of history. The broadcast began with a series of news releases read by Wells simulating an alien invasion on Earth, sending unsuspecting listeners into a panic. This led to a struggle between CBS executives and the police for a duration of the drama, with authorities demanding that the broadcast be exposed for its fictional content. Heavy media scrutiny in the coming days followed, but the production was successful in its portrayal of authentic science fiction content and further cemented the genre as one which captivated the attention of a nation. The next era of film followed the United States and the world into a dark and trying time in history. As World War II began to dominate the attention of the media, movies were starting to be used as war propaganda, with the U.S. Office of War Information intending to use motion pictures as a method to help fight the war. While the science fiction genre did not reign king during this time, two unique films helped the era stick out for the genre. In 1939, a young aspiring actor named Humphrey Bogart was given a chance to act in a horror film called The Return of Dr. X. This would be the film noir movie star's only horror credit, but was a cult classic nevertheless. Despite popular belief, the film was not a sequel to the 1932 horror staple Dr. X and followed an entirely different plot. Also about this time, a trend that surfaced around science fiction viewers was seeing their favorite superheroes on the big screen. Enter Flash Gordon, whose trips to the planet Mongo and battles with the evil Emperor went from the pages of a comic book to film serials throughout the late 1930s. The films were a huge success and led the way for other superheroes to be given the same fate. In 1996, Flash Gordon was preserved in the Library of Congress and was declared culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. By the end of the 1940s, the global pandemonium that was World War II was over, the troops were home, and America was about to experience the rise of the nuclear family. As the baby boomer generation was born into existence, more sophisticated and exciting science fiction films followed. Heading to the movies during the mid-1950s would prove to be a scary task, as movies such as 1954's The Creature from the Black Lagoon scared audiences into handing over their cash at the box office. Directed by sci-fi all-timer Jack Arnold, this film featured the likings of Gilman and was produced in 3D at the height of the 3D film fad. It brought home more than $1.3 million and led to future success for Arnold and amphibious villains alike. 2 years later, Allied Artists Pictures made a film that scared viewers out of their skin but kept them in theaters across the country. 1956's Invasion of the Body Snatchers saw replacement humans descend upon Earth and battle a doctor who saw right through their emotionless plot. The movie grossed $3 million and invaded the Library of Congress in 1994 for preservation in the National Film Registry. As modern technology pressed on, it was the year 1968 that saw two of the most prolific movies ever made hit theaters with a bang. To be more specific, April 3, 1968 saw the release of 2001: A Space Odyssey and Planet of the Apes. These two films dominated the box office for the remainder of the year, with the latter earning over $33 million and 2001 racking up over $190 million to date. The Space Odyssey follows the main characters on a journey to Jupiter to track down a strange new species, while Planet of the Apes saw a crash landing on a strange new planet in the future that has experienced a dynamic role reversal between apes and humans. Both movies have been enshrined in the Library of Congress and have received a laundry list of other awards, with 2001: A Space Odyssey being placed in many arguments as one of the greatest films of all time. As we venture into the final two eras of our journey, we'll see science fiction movies take even a more modern spin with unreal special effects and more foreign creatures taking the trip to our universe. The 1970s and 80s saw the rising trend of films being catered to a teenage and young adult audience come to a climax. As the American new wave of film came to pass, drawn-out sagas about galaxies far, far away and killer predators attacking beaches highlighted this jam-packed epic in American cinematic history. In science fiction circles, the budding career of English director Ridley Scott was highlighted by the successes of 1979's Alien and 1982's Blade Runner. In Alien, an unsuspecting rescue crew unknowingly delivers a deadly creature to Earth in what director Scott calls the Texas Chainsaw Massacre of science fiction films. The feature sparked multiple sequels in the coming years, including a showdown between Alien and fellow movie antagonist Predator. It has grossed over $100 million to date and was ranked as the 7th best science fiction film of all time by the American Film Institute in 2008. Sprint ahead 3 years to Scott's next big hit, and we find Harrison Ford fighting off rogue androids who have come to Earth to expand their lifespan in Blade Runner. While not an instant classic at the box office, this sci-fi staple fell into the 1980s trend of becoming a cult classic, generating a relentlessly loyal audience. Furthermore, it opened the door for Ridley Scott to advance in his illustrious directing career, which would go on to include works such as Gladiator, Black Hawk Down, and the epic 1984 Apple commercial. Heading into today's era of film production, the last 10 years have seen two of the most expansive, expensive, and critically acclaimed movies in science fiction history. 2009's Avatar featured director James Cameron take moviegoers to the planet Pandora, where the indigenous species there is fighting to save their homeland. The film drew in unprecedented crowds and has earned the title of being the highest-grossing film ever to date, raking in over $2.7 billion in profits. 2014 saw the release of a movie in which humans had to leave Earth in order to try to save it. Interstellar featured a star-studded cast of astronauts who traveled across space to fashion a method to further human existence. A huge critical and box office success, the movie turned a profit of over $510 million, helping to further the wallet of director Christopher Nolan and company. Interstellar was nominated for a score of Academy Awards and was widely regarded as one of the top films of 2014. From taking a trip to the moon, to saving the Earth from foreign invaders, to fighting bad guys and circumnavigating the unknown, our science fiction journey really has had it all. We hope you've enjoyed exploring sci-fi works throughout the main eras in history and have gained an understanding about their significance on movies as a whole. Thanks for joining us. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a movie to watch.